All right, guys, welcome back for another message on this platform. I am grateful for each of the subscribers who've taken the time to help grow this actual platform and to just listen and receive well the messages that our Heavenly Father downloads to me and I in turn relay to you. And so today, the focus is none other than 10 prayer points when you are considering selling your home. That's right, 10 prayer points, because we know that in all things we should be praying, we should be consulting our Heavenly Father, and we should not be doing anything in any aspect of our life without the inclusion of Him and His leadership, His guidance, and His approvals, His confirmations. And so those praying points, let's dive in. I have been doing a segment each night this week regarding home ownership, the kingdom way versus the worldly way. And so the very first aspect that you want to pray for is it the appropriate timing? You also want to consider the fact that you need to pray for the type of agent that you're going to end up working with, because this is not something that's small. It is going to be something that carries over the rest of your life. And so, your credit will be affected, your finances will be affected, your livelihood will be affected, because this is what you're going to be utilizing to afford and pay for the things that are associated with where you're going. And so with selling your home, you want to make sure that you have an agent that's understanding, that is going to advocate for you, that is going to have your best interests at heart throughout the entirety of the process of selling your home. Second, you want to make sure that you are actually praying for the right buyer. You don't ever want to receive a buyer that's just buying to be buying. There may be circumstances where the buyer has just, they're at the top of their budget, and this could be a strenuous activity for them or transaction. You don't want that. So you want to make sure that you're praying for the right buyer, for them to be able to come in and house the space, and for it to be an assignment for them in a beneficial light. Then you also want to pray for no hindrances, guys. You don't want any hindrances to arise, or, any type of spiritual warfare to intercept your selling process. I've spoken candidly about the different things that have been going on during the selling process of myself, and the different obstacles that I've faced, which is why I was led spiritually to come on here and do the live segments, because there are a lot of different things purchasing a resale that we were not aware of. And so just moving forward in the testament and all of the different ways that we've been sheltered, we've been covered, we've received the favor of our Heavenly Father, we want to propel these things forward by educating you as a believer as well. And so the selling hindrances that you're praying against during the selling phase are going to be inclusive of your paperwork, guys. You want to make sure that your mortgage statement, that the balances that are reflected as owed are accurate. That's one of the things that we ended up facing, and it caused us several buyers getting away, because we had to have affidavits drawn up from the lender to say that, hey, this is the accurate amount that's owed. You need to nullify this because it's inaccurate. And so that's a process, guys. You want to make sure that your paperwork is aligned. You want to make sure that, like I said, there are no hindrances there. You want to also pray for the closing date to be something that's going to be allowed and acceptable with whatever transaction you have going on versus selling and then transitioning into your new space, be it that you're buying or renting. It doesn't matter. You still need to have the closing dates aligned properly. No hindrances there. You're praying for the appraisal process. So when you do receive a buyer and they submit an offer, which you also want to pray for your offer, the offer for it to be acceptable, for the net proceeds to be able to be enough for you to actually be able to, do whatever it is financially that you are obligated to do. And so the appraisals, now that you've received the offer, now you're at the appraising and the inspection phase, just like you would be in a buying phase. But with the seller's phase, now all of these intricate, meticulous things that may be problematic with your home, you're going to want to pray for that safeguarding. Make sure that you're covering yourself for anything that presents itself, for it to be something minimal that can be negotiated within the selling process, either with a seller's concession, which is a pool of money that you're going to be, supplying to the closer, to the buyer at the closing table after the transaction is completed, for them to have a budget for repairs, if that's something you desire, or for it to be just something simple if they're doing a 203 construction loan, or they're doing a line of credit that's going to allow them to come in and upgrade the property and complete the necessary repairs. And so that in itself is going to be something that you're going to want to pray for. And then the inspection as well. You know, you want to make sure that it's nothing substantially wrong with your property. So pray that nothing goes wrong and nothing happens within that period of you accepting the offer from the right buyer, and then you guys going to actually close and complete that transaction. Next, you want to make sure that you're praying for your closing costs and your fees that are associated. So a lot of the times when you're selling a home, especially if it's a resale, well, if you're selling, then you've lived in it, or even if it was just a short period of time. But you're praying for those closing costs and the fees to be able to be sufficient enough to compensate for your agent fees, to compensate for your the attorney fees that are going to be a part of the closing costs for you selling the home and them handling the paperwork and the transaction itself. And then you're going to also want to pray for any fees that may have arisen, as far as like your taxes, your escrows, anything that would be associated with your home that needs to be paid up on the demand, you know, and they call it payment on demand. So it will be demanded if there is any type of lien on your home. It could be a constructual lien, such as you having like a humidifier system put into your home and you didn't have the funds to pay for it up front, so you take this as a finance and you pay a little bit on it at a time. But if you ever disassociate with that property and you sell it, then now the ownership is being transferred. So now you no longer own it, but that obligation still remains that you pay that balance. So that is going to be something that would be considered a fee. So you want to pray for that. Then you're also going to want to pray for the timely confirmations from our Heavenly Father throughout the entirety of this process, guys. I can't stress that enough. You don't just pray for the buyer and then stop. You don't just pray for the inspection to go well, the appraisal to go well, the fees and things like that, and now you get to the closing table. No, you want to pray for timely confirmations throughout the entire process, so you're staying in alignment and under the instruction of our Heavenly Father. Next, you want to pray for your new home, guys. So wherever you're going, you're going to want to pray for the way that you're transitioning there. You're going to want to pray for the dwelling space to be able to be filled with the fruits of the Spirit, and to heavily have the presence of our Heavenly Father there throughout it. So all of the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, patience, all of those different things you're going to want to be housed in your new dwelling spot. You don't ever want to take any type of trauma or negative energies that you have experienced, problematic areas that you have experienced with your pre-existing home, into your new space. So pray for a clean heart, pray for a renewed mind, pray for a renewed spirit, pray for new beginnings. All of these different things, you're praying for your new home. And then you're also going to pray for the smooth transition into your new home. You don't want problematic areas as it goes to, you know, as it's related to the moving companies, as it's related to your finances, as it's related to, you know, you being compensated properly for the things that you've sold or the things that you've discarded. Any of those things, you don't want problematic areas. So pray for the smooth transition out of your home that you're selling. Next, you're going to pray for the abundance that's associated with the entirety of the process of selling and then entering into your new dwelling space. And so when you're doing that, you're making sure that you are housing the abundance mindset, meaning everything that He desires to give you, you are actually welcoming in, and you're receiving well with gladness, with prayers of thanksgiving in advance to the things that you're expecting. That's what it means to pray with an expected heart. You know, when you pray with the expectancy of something, that means that you have faith that He is going to deliver the very things that you're praying for. And so pray for the abundance mindset as you transition into your new space. Pray for the prosperity that's going to be connected with your new space. Pray for all of these aspects to not only be present, but to be filled in your new space. And so as you're getting ready to enter into this new space, the prosperity, that is the abundance, that is the longevity, that is the peace, that's the joy, that's the happiness, that's all of the different assignments that'll come out of this dwelling space. You're going to pray for these things. You're going to pray for the riches and the wealth that may come from this new property or that will be associated with it. The assignments, like I said, if you're going to be hosting certain functions at your home, inviting others over to pour into them, to encourage them, or just to be a space that's going to be filled with acts of service and love. You're wanting to pray for all of these things for your new space. And then lastly, you're praying for the specific assignments, for the clarity of the assignments that he wants to house within your new space. And then that are going to be attached to the new chapter as you enter in. And so, guys, those are several different prayer points, 10 prayer points that you should be considering when you're actually getting ready to sell your home. And to do so from a kingdom perspective versus a worldly. You don't ever want to be manipulative. You don't ever want to be deceptive. You don't ever want to try to operate from a place other than integrity and honesty as a believer. So stop believing the realtors that are not centered around scriptural practices, because it will come back to bite you. It is nothing that you should be ever operating in outside of selling a home. This transaction alone is something that is very big. And we know from Proverbs 31 that it tells us that she considered the land and everything that she was going to be doing with it. And then she purchased it. She didn't just go off of it because it looked nice. She didn't just go off of it because she wanted to manipulate. She considered these things, which meant that her heart posture was right. You always want to do things with a right, a upright and a integral heart posture. And so, you don't ever want to cheat someone, because it goes back around, guys. What you do unto others shall be done unto you. And so you need to make sure that you have that mindset. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. All right. And so that is all I have regarding this message. There will be other parts that are associated to home ownership and the kingdom way versus the worldly way. So I do ask that you go back and watch those different components. I do have them listed and updated in the live portion. So those live videos that I did do, there were some great questions on there. So take the time to go and examine those, and to you can scroll through it. You can skip through it to see what areas may speak to you or why you're led there. But at the same time, utilize those for tools of wisdom and knowledge for you to be able to prepare yourself for where it is that you're being led and where you're being taken and called by our Heavenly Father. And so, as always, guys, I thank you for watching this video to its entirety. I look forward to the next message. And until then, guys, I pray nothing but the best of success in all things heavenly in your life. Take care, guys.